Here's a fish. All right. First one on, the black and chartreuse. There's one. Crappie. What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome to Cross Country Bank Angler, and today I'm going to be doing another instructional style of video today on another beginner type lure out there. This video was inspired by a recent trip that I took and did a video on. It was a couple videos back on this budget panfish kit. If you haven't seen that video, you should definitely check it out. I took out this kit of 2-inch soft plastics. We got straight tails in here and curly tails in here, and explored a couple of little ponds with it, and it ended up working really well. But that day, the baits that really ended up being the most effective were these curly tail type of soft plastics. So that is what this video is going to be all about. Curly tail grubs is one of those old school lures that's been out for decades, and it still catches a ton of fish. Tons of people use them. No one talks about them because it's not one of those trendier, new kind of flavor of the month popular topics out there, like a Ned rig or a swim bait or something like that. If you're interested in learning how to fish these lures, if you're a beginner and you're trying to figure out something that's good to start with in terms of soft plastics, or if you just, you've been fishing for a while and you've seen these on the shelf and have never really bothered with them, maybe you thought they were just for kids or something like that, this video is for you. So let's get into it. And how this video is going to go, guys, I'm going to talk about the baits, how I use them, when I use them, colors, things like that, and then I'm going to go and show you some fishing footage with these baits, guys. I have, more footage from this day out here that I didn't even get to use in the other video. That's just how many fish I was catching out there. It was that kind of day, and these curly tails were just putting in the work. Like I said, they've been around for a while, guys. I did a little bit of research on this style of lure, these curly tails, and these were first introduced, I think it was 1972. A company called Mr. Twister, you may have heard of them, you may not have, introduced these as the Mr. Twister Twister Tail in 1972. And that kind of makes sense because, that was around the time when my dad was growing up, and he calls these Mr. Twisters. So that's the brand that really started off this type of lure. Let me just give you a quick example of what I'm talking about here. This is a pretty standard design of curly tail. This is one from that pack, that little kit. So you can see here, you've got a ribbed, kind of grub-like body. Looks kind of like some kind of larva or something like that. And then you get this sickle-shaped tail behind it. And basically, the way these things work is, you make your cast, and as you're winding in this lure, that little tail is gonna twist and swim back there. And I think what it looks the most like, guys, is like a small, like a tadpole or something like that. I think that's what it really mimics the most. But anyway, it's a very good looking lure on the water. It's a lifelike action, and fish instinctively react to it, guys. When I was growing up, this is what I caught most of my bass on. I think it was just pure chartreuse, Mr. Twister style of grub. I'm not sure exactly what brand I used, but it was a little 2-inch one just like this. This is kind of the most popular size out there. But there are smaller ones, down to half this size, and there are also much bigger ones, huge ones in fact. There's some really big ones for like saltwater fishing out there, and all the way in between. This is a multi-species lure, a high percentage type of lure, guys, and what I mean by that is on a given day, I feel like I have a better chance of just getting something to bite with one of these than I do with a lot of other lures. But when I'm out there trying to choose what kind of lures I'm going to try, what situations am I looking for fishing these? When should you tie one of these on? And the question is, well, first off, what is your goal? If you're just out there trying to catch fish and you don't necessarily care what kind of species you catch, this is a good option, guys, in a wide range of conditions. You can fish these in clear water, you can fish these in fairly stained water, not super dirty, but you can see here, I got some pretty bright colors. This pink and chartreuse, that black and chartreuse from earlier, And those colors are going to show up even in fairly stained water. So you can fish these in a wide range of conditions, guys, just depending on your colors, right? Those brighter colors are going to be good for the stained water, and more natural colors are going to be good for more clear water. So as an example here, here's a super natural one. This is I think this is a cream brand called the Curltail Shad. You can see the body is a bit of a different style there. It's kind of squared off, more of a fish shape. And the tail on this one actually kind of bends down. This is a super natural color, guys. This is something I'll throw like in a creek or just a clear water pond where I'm seeing lots of small kind of silvery bait fish. So that's kind of my guideline on the colors, guys. There's a ton of different colors in these, you know, panfish plastics that just have all sorts of crazy colors. But my rule of thumb is go with something bright when you have low light conditions or dirtier water, and then go with something fairly natural if you have clearer water. Maybe it's a place with more fishing pressure. So just keep those factors in mind when you're out there looking at all the different colors and trying to decide, you know, what should I get. Especially, you know, I like something with some chartreuse, like a chartreuse tail with some darker contrasting color, guys, whether it's black or green pumpkin or something like that. That's a good one for ponds with stained water around me. So what about, you know, how do you fish these? You know, what's kind of the main technique? And I kind of referenced it a little bit earlier. You know, this is a type of smaller soft plastic that's really best suited for a horizontal style of retrieve. So, you know, if you're vertical jigging or something, I mean, you can fish these that way as well, because, you know, if you get one of these and you lift it up and let it drop, that tail's going to swim up and fall back down, and you'll definitely get some bites that way with these. But I would say there are maybe some other styles of plastic that are maybe better for that, but these would still work there. But I would say most of the time with these, I'm going to be making casts and covering water with these guys. Just a straight retrieve will catch fish on this. You know, typically I don't go very fast. I try to go moderate or on the slower side. Basically as slow as I can go while I can still get that tail to swim. That's kind of how I like to fish these a lot of the time, guys. You know, I think you want to try to experiment a little bit. You know, some people just say, that's all you have to do. And sometimes that is true. You can just cast these, wind them in, let that tail do the work, just like a paddle tail swim bait, right? But I think there are days when changing up your retrieve a little bit will get you some more bites. Whether that's you know, pausing every now and then, letting the bait drop down. You know, say you're swimming along and then you just let it fall. Another thing I do, guys, is just, you know, when I'm making my cast here, is as I'm winding, just lightly shake my wrist. I'm lightly shaking the rod. It's only going, the tip of the rod is probably going, you know, 6 inches from side to side, just enough to kind of give it a little bit of a different action. And what this does is it slows down the horizontal travel of the lure, and it causes it to just shiver up and down just a little bit, just a little bit of a side to side thing going on, and it makes the swim a little more erratic. And I've had days where doing that little shake, you know, throwing in those pauses has made all the difference. And then, like I said, I've had those days where all you have to do is just wind them in and you're going to get bites. So experiment every time you're fishing with these guys. And I want to also talk on the sizes a little bit more. Like I said, this 2-inch size, guys, is probably the most popular for these. And this is a great one for small waters, you know, creeks, ponds. If you're kind of going for probably the most traditional target species when you're using these, which is a crappie. But I mean, this is a size that I fish almost universally with these guys, and I mean, I've caught a ton of different species on this, various types of sunfish. Bluegill love these. Largemouth bass will hit these. Even fairly big bass will hit these. And if you really want to go finesse, like I said, you can go to those really small ones. I don't actually have any super small ones, but I'm also going to be trying out some significantly bigger versions of these guys. This is called the Fat Albert. This is from Zoom. This color is called Sungill. Let me get one out of the pack for you here. Here it is, guys. I really like this color. It's very pretty natural. It's got black, purple, green, and orange flake in there, and then the base color is just kind of this, like I said, very natural, kind of almost a green pumpkin brown color. And look how big the curl tail on that is. This thing is going to draw attention from a fish in clear water from pretty far away. And these big ones, they seem to have mostly more natural colors compared to the small ones, because they're really more, I think, oriented towards bass fishing or walleye, you know, other bigger species, striped bass, things like that. But I just have this rigged on a swim bait jig head, guys, and that's how I'm probably going to try these out, is just casting and retrieving like I would a swim bait. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a good way to think about these. It's just as kind of an alternative to a swim bait, just a different action, but similar way to fish them, similar types of retrieve. Just casting, letting that tail do its work back there. Last thing I'm going to touch on here, guys, is the equipment that I like to use, the rods and the reels, the tackle that I prefer. And this is going to be pertaining to the 2-inch variety, particularly since that's what I've used the most. I will fish these on a medium spinning setup, guys, and this is going to depend, you know, on how you're rigging these, you know, what size jig head you're using. That's something I wanted to touch on as well. Is you know, for me, I fish a range of jig weights from on these from an 1/8 of an ounce to 1/32 of an ounce, and specifically for that 1/8 ounce, here's one with a 1/8 ounce jig. This medium can cast a fishable distance, not super far, but that's kind of the light end of the weight range on a medium spinning rod. And this has 10-pound test mono on it. If you wanted to get a little more distance, you could probably go down to like 8-pound test mono. But if you want to throw the full range of those jig weights that I was talking about, you know, especially if you're kind of going to the smaller plastics, you know, a smaller, you know, one of the 1-inch size or something like that, go and go with an ultralight, guys. Ultralight spinning. This is what I'm fishing these on a lot of the time, especially the really smaller jig heads, is an ultralight spinning rod. It says 4-pound test line on it, 5'6" rod, great for ponds and creeks, and yeah, you can fish anything from those 1/8 down to those 1/32, and you're gonna have no problem casting. You know, the main difference in the weight, guys, is it's gonna depend on the situation, right? I'll go to that heavier weight if I want to get more casting distance, and if I'm dealing with heavier current, or if I know I'm gonna be fishing deeper water and I want to get that lure down deeper. And if I'm fishing super shallow water, you know, a small creek, something like that, I'll go down to a 1/32, and that's gonna slow the fall rate, and it's going to kind of keep you from getting snagged as much too if you have that lighter jig head on there in that situation, guys. The 1/8 ounce is just going to smack into the bottom, and you're going to get hung up on sticks and stuff like that. And for the 1/16, like I said, you know, that's probably a little too light for the medium spinning, and I like that. That's a good middle ground if you don't know which one to choose. Is a 1/16 if you have your ultralight. But I've also gotten into the habit, and this is what I'm going to be doing in the footage, is fishing these on bait finesse, guys. BFS, it's kind of a trendy thing to do these days. I like it quite a bit, but that 1/16, that's pretty much the lightest I'll go on my current BFS setups. This is a, let's see, I've got 7-pound mono on this setup. This is a light power casting rod. It's rated from 1.8 to 15 grams. At 1.8, that is right around a 16th. So we're at the lightest of this rod when I'm fishing these, but yeah, if you're more experienced and you like a bait caster, you know, I think the BFS, you know, you can just get a little bit better, you know, a little more efficiency, a little more accuracy in your casting with BFS, but that's really more for an advanced angle. So that's pretty much all I got to say about these guys. You know, they're different body styles, you know, some that look more like a fish, different size tails on some of these, you know, proportionally speaking. I think one of the downsides of these guys that I've noticed over the years is if the fish are not committing to the lure. You know, you get, you know, that tail is such a big target that sometimes you'll get fish that just kind of nip at it a lot and don't get hooked up. So that's one thing to be aware of. And in that scenario, guys, you know, I'll try to either experiment with different colors to see if they'll commit to a different color better, or I'll just consider switching to something else if they're just not getting hooked up on it. So that's one downside of these to be aware of compared to, say, the swim bait, which most of the time I don't have that issue. But yeah, let's get into the footage, guys. All right, guys, so we took off that straight tail and switched to another curly tail. So this is the black with the chartreuse, and this is a color combo that I think should work. I mean, I've definitely caught a lot of fish on black and chartreuse. So, for whatever reason in the lakes around me, it's a good combo. There's a fish. All right. First one on the black and chartreuse. I felt him tag it. Nice. Another bluegill. Not as big as the first one. I saw a pretty nice one earlier though, maybe a 9-incher. There are some bigger ones in here. Whoa, hold on, fish. There he is, pretty washed out looking bluegill. It's probably a female. There's no question about it. That's why it's good to experiment, guys. Have multiple options available to you. Just gonna increase your success. Thank you, little bluegill. Here's a fish. Ah! Starting to miss some now. Especially the bass. Maybe they're just not... I'm feeling like little taps, like they're just not quite hammering it. There's one. Okay, got that little guy. It might have been the same one, honestly, I'm not sure. See ya, buddy. There's a fish. Yes. Another bass, guys. Ah, yes. I do like exploring new spots and finding some fish. Sure, not big, but today was more about just kind of making an assessment of the lake. You know, a species assessment, as some will say. 9.5, 10 inches. Not bad. Not bad for the BFS. Got one. All right. Another one for the black and chartreuse. Another small bass, around 9.5, I would say. Little bass. All right. I think there was some little stick or something he was sitting on over there when he hit it. Guys, there is so much freaking pollen out here because of these pine trees. I mean, look at when I step down, you can see just puffs of pollen. It's like yellow smoke flying up from the ground. That's crazy. Very fortunate not to really be that allergic to it. Had a couple of nibbles. Here's one. All right, another bluegill. Or the black and yellow. All right, guys, my camera died, my GoPro died as I was bringing this fish up. Similar size to the last bluegill, pretty silvery. I think it's another female. But yeah, there's another one for the black and yellow curly tail. Curly tail is the deal today, guys. Such a simple little lure, catches so many fish. Whoa. Oh, hello, I didn't see you there. You're watching Cross Country Bank Angler. If you're enjoying the video so far, if you've learned something new about fishing, or just find the video entertaining or relaxing in any way, then I want to take the time to ask you to please subscribe to the channel. I know that there's a lot of fishing related content on YouTube right now. There are a lot of channels out there. So if you're taking the time to watch mine, I just want to say that I appreciate you, and I hope you'll stick around. We've got weekly fishing videos here at Cross Country Bank Angler. You know, wade fishing, topwater, bait finesse, ultralight. So if that's the kind of fishing that you enjoy, then I encourage you to hit that subscribe button, because I think you'll enjoy all the future content that I'm going to be putting out on the channel. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you'll consider supporting me by subscribing. Guys, right along the bank. This might be the one that jumped off a second ago. First one at this other lake. There's one. Crappie. I was hoping we'd catch another one. So it does seem like the black and yellow is the better option for this dirtier lake so far. He's small. Small little crappie. See a little crappie? Little crappie. There's one. That feels better. Oh yeah, a little bit better. Crappie number 2. Yeah, a little bit bigger. So I'm kind of working the entrance. You can see this kind of causeway canal that runs along the road. I'm not sure what the explanation is for that, but it's like a little, you know, the entrance to that's like a little choke point. So definitely wanted to make sure to cover that, and it seems like there are some fish at that entryway. So, see ya, buddy. A little further out from the entrance this time. Just winding it every now and then, twitching it and pausing it a little bit. It's a fish, it's very small. It's a crappie. He didn't really fight. All
right, so it seems like there's a little school of crappie over here. All about 6 inches. Nothing special about that, but hey, they're here. They're biting.
All right, people. I hope you enjoyed some more of that footage from that day. You could see there the fish were just tearing up those curly tails. You know, we actually got to kind of demonstrate the effectiveness of this lure in different conditions as well, because that second lake was actually significantly more stained than the first lake. But all we had to do is make a quick color switch, and we're back on the fish. So with that being said, I hope you learned something about how to fish these curly tail grubs, guys. It's a great lure for anyone really to have in their tackle box. It's a good one for beginners to try out, and it's an old standby that expert anglers will hold on to, even, you know, especially for those tough days when maybe some of the more trendy stuff like a Ned rig or a swim bait, a little swim bait or something isn't working, or if you just want to have fun. It's a fun lure to fish, guys. So thanks again for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Peace.